special edition of the Brett Allen Show, a pop culture podcast. And today we are talking about Phat Tuesdays, which is now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And we are talking to a comedy rock star, in my opinion, some of the best impressions in the game. We are talking also SNL alum Finesse Mitchell. Welcome into the show. It's great to have you.
I don't know if he's one of the best impressionists, but he's pretty damn good.
Now I'm just kidding. That's Brock. Now, I tell you, I'm excited about this because this documentary series, Phat Tuesdays, is fantastic. I mean, some of the best that I've seen out there, I tell you, because there's so much to watch. Yeah. And I have to tell you, being quite honest, as I watch these documentaries, I learn more and more about the Comedy Store, especially in the late 90s, and really just what a hotbed that was for comedy and just a lot of things. How did this project come about for you? And if people haven't had a chance to watch it yet, Finesse, can you fill us in a little bit on what it's about?
Well, first of all, it's about how comedy in Los Angeles, let's say, the iconic three clubs, the Hollywood Improv, the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store. Well, every night back then in those days, there was definitely a show going on, but it was mainstream comics and or white comics. So Robin Harris, I'm sorry.
That would be funny if it was Robin Williams. I'm like, now you're definitely telling me something that I don't know about. That's great. We know what you meant. That's okay.
But Robin Harris, he basically took what we call mainstream black comedy or underground comedy. I can't even call it mainstream black comedy, and took it down, past Pico, as we say out here, down in the district, to the Comedy Act Theater. And once, and it became legendary. Like, all the famous black comedians would be in the Comedy Act Theater. And once it started to die down because of the passing of Robin Harris, it was never really the same. Guy Torry was here in Los Angeles and figured that the black comics really needed a place to stay. But why can't we be on Sunset Strip? Why can't we be on Sunset Boulevard? You know what I mean? So he basically went to Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store and said, give me a night. If you give me a night out, I'll pack it out. And so she gave him the belly room in the Comedy Store. It can seat 75 people comfortably. And Phat Tuesdays started, he called it Phat Tuesdays, comedian Guy Torry from Missouri. And next thing you know, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they moved it to the main room. And once it was in the main room, it became a movie. It was literally a movie. I mean, everybody from sports, the Lakers to the Clippers. They didn't really want the Clippers back then, but from the Lakers to every comedian, to every star, like everybody would come on Tuesday night to Black Night at the Comedy Store. And it became legendary with every Tuesday that passed. People were flying in town literally to do a Tuesday night at the Comedy Store. And so when you saw the Phat Tuesday documentary, I think it could have went on for 10 more episodes.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that, how much can you put in one documentary? And it was so beautifully done. You could tell that, just the passion that he put into the project and how long he had the project. And
yeah,
because I'll tell you this, Torry called me and I said, I'm there, I'll do it. But he didn't have all those people agreeing to do the documentary till certain people started doing the documentary.
Of
and
course.
Then he started showing, of course, the sizzle or clips of the documentary. And then more people started to do the documentary. You know what I mean? So I'm glad he took his time with it. I'm glad people decided to get involved and tell their stories, because it's just one of those iconic nights in comedy here in Los Angeles where stars were born. It was like Def Comedy Jam, but it wasn't Def Comedy Jam. It was something better. It was something more special, and it was live. It was urban,
Yeah, I mean, it's just so cool. And I had heard the same thing when Mike Binder or Mike Binder did his documentary on the Comedy Store, just in general, like it took a little bit of time before people became fully interested in becoming a part of it, because from what I
Right.
understand, like for a lot of comedians, it's like split down the middle, as far as like how their feelings are towards the store and sort of that sort of thing. But I feel like you could do 2 or 3 or 4 more seasons of this because it's that good.
Absolutely. Because the stories are definitely there. I mean,
Yeah.
you could do stories. Um, you could do, hold on one second. I'm sorry. You could do stories just on like 2 or 3 comics
Yeah.
and have that be 2 or 3 episodes, you know? So for him to like include, people like, like, I don't know. You saw the documentary. People, if you haven't seen the documentary, it's on Amazon. It's so many comedians on it, from JB Smooth to Steve Harvey, all the way down to like a Finesse Mitchell, Jay Farrell. It's just like, it's so many comedians on it that you can literally say, hey, Finesse Mitchell, when you were doing the Starkeisha character, where did you practice? Oh, well, Guy was the only person that would give you stage time to do this bit. I used to do this bit that literally used to stand people up. And when Tracy Morgan was leaving Saturday Night Live and they was looking for the new black guy, I just happened to have this perfect bit that was like, it was ready. If you know anything about comedy, comedy is about having a great bit that's ready at the right time,
Yeah.
being seen by the right person who can do something for your career. And that's what happened to me. Next thing I know, I was in New York City and I got Saturday Night Live. But if it wasn't for the reps, you know what I mean, I probably wouldn't have been ready when it was time to audition.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard that story very similarly told. Tommy Davidson was on recently, and he said the same thing. It was like getting in front of the right people really is what it comes down to, and having those opportunities. Now, I know you mentioned SNL. You did that for about 3 seasons, but I think most people, I know for sure myself, knew you as a stand-up comic, long before and after. When you were getting started, did you do the Comedy Store a lot? Was that where you kind of got a start as a regular, or how did that journey start for you as a comedian and a storyteller?
When I got started, I started at the Laugh Factory,
Okay.
pretty much. But where I most consistently got up was the Comedy Store at the time. But it was still like probably a once every 5 weeks thing. So to me, that was getting up a lot.
Yeah.
The Ha Ha Cafe here off of Lankershim in Los Angeles, a lot of us went there on a Wednesday night because you could get up. That was sort of like their black urban night. Um, but and then there was the Comedy Union out here, and then people had individual rooms. The Laugh Factory is my home club. You know, it's where I am right now. I'm literally inside the Laugh Factory.
Yeah, I was gonna say I recognize the I've been in that room a couple times before. Very interesting. I have a couple more questions. I know we have a tight time limit here,
This
but
is
I want to
breaking news, but I'm the president of the Laugh Factory, so I didn't know if you knew that.
I did not really. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're doing Wendy Williams and you're the president of the Laugh Factory. You're making moves, my friend. I tell you, it's getting out there. Very
Yes.
curious. You mentioned that you had come up with this character, and then you get Saturday Night Live, and I'm just asking this out of genuine curiosity. When you're on that show and you're a stand-up by trade, and now you're being put into this world of sketch comedy, because you killed it on that show. You had so many great impressions and a lot of amazing Weekend Update bits, just a lot of fun stuff. But is it challenging for you as a comedian who's used to doing stand-up to being put into a scenario where now you're pitching sketches every week and trying to get screen time, or is it just all the same for you? It's a hustle and you just do what you need to do to kind of get where you need to be in that sort of space.
That's a great question. I was definitely feeling like a stand-up when I got there and tried to crack the code on what their brand of funny was.
Right.
Because for me at the time, it was just about getting a job. I want to get something in Hollywood. I moved out to LA to get something in Hollywood, and I ended up booking something that was in New York City. So I had to move all the way to New York City. And so at the time, I was still young in the game, and I really wasn't thinking about it. Like, I just booked the iconic Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Holy crap! For me, it was just like, oh, I have a job. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, way back when Eddie Murphy was here. You know what I mean? It was just like that thing versus when I got around people like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and Jimmy Fallon and Maya Rudolph. I mean, they really, for them, it was like the pinnacle. And I
Yeah.
didn't figure that out till like late. It really wasn't hitting me. So when I got on and I had a sketch that got on, whether it was I don't know, Morgan Freeman, Starkeisha or whatever, it was just like, oh, I got a sketch on. And then it became, hey, you know, Queen Latifah's hosting. So what do you got? You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, you know what I mean? So then you
Yeah.
start to learn a little bit the politics of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
oh, you know, Halle Berry's hosting. You're going to be used a lot this week. You know what I mean? Tom Hanks is hosting. You might be on the sideline, you know? So
Yeah.
just me just trying to like maneuver and trying to shift my funny to a sketch. It was difficult. I was a pretty decent writer and I could really get to the joke, but sometimes a sketch is 6 or 7 pages long. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you really got to be a writer, you know? So that transition was a little difficult, but you know, the overall experience was great. And everybody who I met, you know what I mean? All the guest stars as it still goes on today and all the musical guests, you know, it's just like, wow, I look back on that time like, Finesse, you blew it. No.
No, I mean
No, I
was
look
it
back on
was
that time like I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it.
no, I believe you. I get it. You know, I love that. And I think it was your impression of Stephen Avery that was like kind of like a go-to. You know, you just did all of these like fantastic moments. And I was before we started talking a couple days ago, I was just going through YouTube and just watching some of your old clips from the show and just some of your highlight reels. And you just it was a different time for Saturday Night Live. I think just a very special moment. I think it's still great now, but
I
I
got
could
to take
understand.
over for Tracy Morgan. And
Yeah.
I didn't even really know Tracy before I met her.
Yeah, it was great. And your comedy is great too. I've seen you out here in the Bay Area several times. This
Yeah.
is fantastic. Fat Tuesdays. It's now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And it's just, I mean, a lot of fun if you want to learn about comedy,
Yeah.
uh, black comedy
Black
history,
comedy. You
the
got to call it what it
90s.
is. Black
It
comedy.
is, yeah, the 90s comedy boom of black comedy and really you know, which I feel like you guys and all these people were getting like the right just due as far as like being recognized, you know, instead of like an Apollo type polarizing thing or maybe just something off to the side, but really, you know, selling the hell out of that club and
Right.
making it something huge. In fact, we got Guy coming on tomorrow, so I'm excited to hear from him as well. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy individual, and it's been a long list of time and dreams to get you on the show. So thank you so much, Finesse, for spending time with us today. I appreciate it.
If you're ever in LA, bro, come to the Laugh Factory. Say you know me. I got you.
I will. Yeah, we were just there over Christmas, and everything was closed. But I'll make a solo trip without a child this time and hit the clubs up. Thank you so much.
All right.